mistake of the nation. That is what I am calling it, warrior. I'm bringing to you, as promised from the previous video leading up to the State of the Union. Well, this is my rebuttal. I really feel that I have to delve into this for a couple of minutes and explain a few things to you. As expected, the speech I heard last night by the occupant of the White House, or so he claims he's the occupant of the White House, we're really not sure how much he's there, is exactly what I expected. That is exactly what he is going to, he and his team. Remember, his team, a couple of people wrote that for him. His team want. His people, his supporters, Democratic Party, whatever you want to call these people, that is what they want them to hear. That was, as usual, it can be Republicans, Democrats. It's a rallying, a pep rally, a this or that. I did watch this speech from beginning to end, including the rebuttal at the end by the Republican Party, because I can't comment on anything. I have to hear it and see it for myself. It's not enough these days. I do not trust media, even online platforms, for the most part, with the information, because there's a lot of propaganda out there. So I have to hear it and see it for myself. So that is the reason I sat through that. So I can now comment about the mistake of the nation. I was hoping in some way, some fashion, some form, we might, I had a little simmering of hope about the border talk. As you know, I'm extensively involved with Lynn's Warriors on issues surrounding our criminal open borders being run by the cartels, complicit with the NGOs and the U.S. government in the biggest human trafficking operation in the world. Now, I just don't throw those words out there. For me, these are the facts. We don't know what these NGOs are really doing other than processing people, children in particular, I want to talk about, having them come into the United States. 400,000 children have come. That is the number we know about. So remember, there's a lot we don't know about. 400,000 children have come into the United States from other countries since 2021. 400,000. Where are all those kids? How about the cartels? The warriors, we work with Border Patrol. We're in touch. We have sources that tell us what's really going on. These are the boots on the ground. They tell us what is happening. They tell us different stories. How about the ranchers who, on their vast properties along Texas, Arizona, and I never want to forget California, because, we say constantly southern borders, but let's think about this. Everywhere is a border. I'm here in New York City. New York State has a problem, which is nobody's really talking about right now, with our northern border, which we border with Canada. This is the part where you should take out the map, the globe, if you're not aware of how this works. And people are coming through Canada, especially a lot of Chinese, into New York. Then we have California, San Diego. I work with a wonderful immigration attorney, and I have to get her back on, Esther Valdez-Clayton, who works very hard to legally help people become United States citizens. She herself comes from a family, and she was telling me one day how her parents, when they came from Mexico, there were all kinds of classes. They even had to learn, different holidays like Thanksgiving, we cook a turkey. How do you prepare this traditional American meal? What does Christmas mean? What are the, traditions in America around Christmas? Well, of course, throw all that out the window. But we have, at least in the San Diego area, upwards of 1,500 a day coming in. And from what I hear, and if you dig a little deeper, you can find, certainly if you vet things online about all of this, where people are just coming in and they're putting them on. There's a trolley car that runs in San Diego all the way through the towns down towards Los Angeles. And they're just putting people, there you go. There's your trolley. Take your bag and go. So we have that. We have to understand also our oceans. Our oceans are borders. Why, just today there was a report early this morning that a boatload of these illegal aliens were floating up to the Florida coast. But let's talk about the children. You think we could all get on board with protecting children. Now remember, when I talk about these illegal children, our children, I want you to bear this in mind, are watching all of this. What must our kids think? What must they think about hearing this chaos, this constant being overrun by these people, these strangers, these, all these monies being spent, when most American families, 60% is the current report, are living paycheck to paycheck. Remember, whatever we quote, whatever the study is, the numbers are always higher. So say it's 70, 75% perhaps. Because a lot of these things are kept in the dark. We don't have the true stats. People are worried about their rent and their mortgage and their gas and their food and their children and keeping it all going. So they're not paying attention to what I might be paying attention to. We also know, let me remind you, that we have 14 states that are working on lowering all labor standards for children. Children as young as 12 will be allowed to work until midnight in some states on a school day. Now remember, in the 1930s, these child labor laws were established to protect children from dangerous situations. Why today nobody is talking about this? Is it because in this labor movement, now remember, it goes state by state. There's no federal law with this. Currently, we have 28 states in the last 2 years who have changed or are changing labor laws for children. That includes, I want to make everybody well aware of, the state of Florida that everybody praises all the time. Is this thinking that we can absorb these illegal children into that cheap labor system? Because I don't hear anybody talking about that. I was told one time, listen, these children come from countries where they are used to, from the minute they are born, and toddlers, children, teens, working to help support the family, or so dirt poor working, they're out on their own working to support themselves, so they don't know any different. We do know both Democrats and Republicans love cheap labor. To hear last night what I heard coming out of the current occupant of the White House, again, let me preface that by saying I don't really know how much time he spends in the White House. To say we have the best employment, the best with farming, when we know for a fact upwards of 80% of American farms are now Chinese-owned. Corporations, individuals, what about that? We heard about chips, and I'm digressing here a little bit, but these things warrant a bit of discussion. Are children working on these farms that are Chinese-owned? What about these chip factories? Are children working in these chip factories? Meat processing plants. We know kids are working there, the automotive industry, construction definitely. So no mention. Other than, and again, I am not talking, I want to make something very clear. It's a little bit hard for everybody to understand, but I know you can listening. This is not about being a Republican or Democrat. This is about being an American. That is the way I look at things. What is best for America? What about this open border? Who is that best for? Certainly not for us in America. Certainly not for these people that are abused and vulnerable. Or the women who send their girls along, put them on birth control pills because they just expect it's part of the journey getting raped. Not for the various ranchers reporting on their vast properties that there are rape trees all along their properties, on the border to Mexico especially, and also in California, that border. And a rape tree is just a tree on a property that the cartels, what they do is they rape children, and I'm sorry I have to tell you this is a trigger warning. If you're going to get upset and don't want to hear it, then move away. But this is the reality in 2024, right in our own United States. They rape children and women, probably men and boys as well. And as a sign of that, they hang usually their underwear up on the tree. And just the other day, I saw pictures of a rancher in Arizona, a ranch in his family for, I believe it was 127 years. And when he got, it was hundreds and hundreds of acres. When he got to the part, 6 acres, that just borders Mexico in one tip of his property, where he doesn't go very often, he found several trees, and he was heartbroken because it had children's and women's underwear hanging from the branches. Our U.S. government is allowing this? And let me just throw in Lake and Riley. There are more Lake and Rileys out there, and that story the name couldn't even be given out straight. Can you imagine teenagers watching that? How scared they must be. We have a well-documented youth mental health crisis. As a matter of fact, I'm dealing with things right now, and I'm dealing with people in their late teens, early 20s. They have anxieties. They can't meet a deadline. They can't return an email, a phone call. They don't even make an excuse. They just don't do anything. They just can't move. We have a lot of issues with young men with the sextortion online. Aren't you tired of talking about how bad things are? Because I certainly am. It's about taking action. The Republicans far too much just react to the left, the progressives, whatever this group of people are called. I don't know. Let's take action. There are solutions. Congress is not protecting our children. This is a bipartisan issue. Certainly the Kids Online Safety Act. We are in March. In my book, we're heading towards April, our 118th Congress. Why can't they pass one child safety bill? Not invading anybody's privacy, because if you Google any of this, you'll just see the propaganda that people's privacy is being shut down. No, it's not. This is to hold big tech accountable for algorithms that they force on our children, for things like that they take a duty of care. If there is a nude image of a child, that it is taken down immediately. What discussion is there? I'm tired of no action being taken. The last child safety bill was 25 years ago, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. Children are chattel. Children are the product. Our children and children on the border. These are human rights abuses, what these children are enduring. We certainly had things in place in the Trump administration, like the guy, don't like the guy, things that worked. The wall is going up. Day one, with the current guy in the White House, the wall was coming down. Stop all work on it. Number 2, we had the DNA swabbing of the cheeks. If an adult showed up with a children, the children were taken, their cheeks swabbed, and that DNA, usually the test took about 90 minutes, rapid DNA test, and if there was a match, the child was released to that adult. That was stopped. Human rights abuses, it was called the privacy of the child. These are illegal. Children, bear in mind, coming here. And I think it's a little suspicious, but you need proof. If a man shows up at the border with 5 little girls, certainly I think some questions should be asked. And the children are trained. That's my father. That's daddy. So they don't know. They're in fear for their lives. That is ingrained in them. The women are in fear. In fear, in fear, in fear. They come from a culture of fear in most of these countries. They continue here. And they are told the police will arrest them, take their children from them. Fear. And the cartels are instilling. It is a smooth operation from my sources on the border. Operating with different color bracelets, different, how about the app? Allowing, 100,000 people in. All these Chinese people, just the other day it was announced, they go on the app. There's no vetting or anything. You fill out the form, you show up. Everybody had clean clothes on that I saw. Nice suitcases, great shoes, just waiting for their lift to, Los Angeles or perhaps New York City. So I didn't hear, and I didn't expect to hear anything last night, but here's what I do expect. I do expect that we talk about what we didn't hear about. I do expect that we take action and we urge our elected representatives that work for us, House.gov, Senate.gov, to take action to protect children, whether it's online, shut down the border, enough, human trafficking resources. I don't care. Go to lynswarriors.org. We have a host of things you can pick from. We have to get involved. Those days of sitting on the sidelines are over. We have to all do something, and more than ever in this election year. I understand. I saw it with my own eyes last night. The clapping, the standing, the cheering. It's funny. I just had a conversation with a young man, and he said to me, "Oh, did you watch last night?" And I said, "Yes, I did, because I want to comment, so I have to watch and observe for myself." And by the way, I want all of you to do the same. Do not take anybody's word for anything. Things you read, watch, learn, vet for yourself. Do a little homework, dig deeper, I like to say. And he said to me, "What was that? We have so many problems in this country," and people were cheering and laughing and standing and clapping. I said, "Well, that's the way that goes at what used to be called State of the Union. I am now calling it Mistake of the Union." And for a young person to bring this up and say, how can they be cheering when things are so tough, when things are so bad, when so many kids I know who went to college now have no jobs and they're living at home with their parents. Grandparents are also taking over a lot because the parents can't handle. We're seeing this in a lot of cities, especially of our most vulnerable, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, where the parents are having a lot of problems, perhaps even drug-addled, alcohol addicted, no jobs. Grandparents are stepping in. I have a lot of grandparents that contact me about child safety, internet child safety. What can we do? So that's an interesting dynamic. We have to talk now to those unsung heroes, the grandparents raising a lot of children these days. And sometimes we have 80-year-olds, raising 5 and 10-year-olds. So we have to think, I didn't hear much talk about that, about strengthening the family unit. Oh, I heard something about education, but let's stop putting the Band-Aids on things. Let's get in there. What are the root causes? How do we intervene? How do we protect? But then again, things like putting a Band-Aid on makes a lot of money for a lot of people. Solving problems does not. If we erase something, whether it's trafficking, whether it's wars, whether it's closing the border, a lot of monies will dry up for a lot of people. Just think of it as a wheel with a lot of spokes, making a lot of money for a lot of people, and it's going around and around and around. So why would they want to help and shut any of this down when there's all this money at stake? But I do want us to be calling out and keeping an eye on these NGOs, these non-governmental organizations working on all of our borders. What's really going on with them? Because I hear they're releasing children, not following up, not vetting, and somebody's driving away with 10, 20 kids in their cars, never to be seen from again. Human rights abuses. And our children are watching all of this. So remember, subscribe to this channel. Subscribe. We need to build. Community creates change. This is your home to discuss all of these issues, and we're just getting going. 2024 is it. We have great plans in the works. We are launching our Warriors Youth Council shortly. We are going to be coming to a town near you. We have many events here in the New York area lined up for the months of March and April, going into May. And what we are going to do is take one day at a time. We're going to come together. We're going to talk about all of these issues, but I need you. So I need you, number one, to subscribe. Number two, I need you to go on some of my platforms, whether you retweet, Facebook, Instagram, numbers matter. I am passionate about this because I want to get the information out. If I help one person, one child a day, I have done my job. We have done our jobs. So the numbers it's just the way it goes with online and YouTube and all that. Numbers matter. So suggest this channel. It's easy. It's easy to digest, as I say. The mistake of the union was as I expected last night, but we are better than what I heard and you heard last night, because we are the United States of America, and we are going to protect our children, digital safety, real-time safety. We're going to talk about issues. And we are not going to allow the destruction of young minds and young lives in the name of these people who I don't know who they really are. They're not worrying about buying their groceries and paying their rents and mortgages and putting gas in the car, but many of us are. So always reach out to me with any questions or comments, lynn@lynswarriors.org. Again, I want you to subscribe. I want you to be able to understand the reality. I know it's dark and can be a little overwhelming and ugly, but we have to talk about it because it is the reality, and the lives of our children and families are at stake. So I want to thank you. Thank you for your donations. We do all free educational programs. That's where our monies go into, as well as supporting survivors. You know, we don't put everything on Facebook and online that we do behind the scenes because that's private. We don't do it. We don't want a dog and pony show. But we support survivors, their needs, whether it's food, transportation, toiletries, any of that type of thing. And we want to build from there. And everybody can do a little something. LynnsWarriors.org is the place to be. Thank you. Thank you for listening. Subscribe. Be on the lookout. Kiss your kids. And remember, community creates change. Now go out and be a warrior.